checked here. It should have, no.
That might have been the one. Yours might be coming still.
No, it says
Oh, no,
delivered on
it's there
mine.
on it, yeah.
Sorry, babe.
Say, everybody say welcome to Junk Bucket Garage.
Bucket Garage.
Welcome to the junk bucket.
Enjoy. Well, today on Junk Bucket Garage, we're gonna get back to semi-cool stuff. We're gonna work on my 66 GTO convertible flavored, red smelling car. I got the family support group with me. Because if you don't know, the last 10 or 15% of working on a hot rod is the most difficult. So when you get past having the frame restored and the engine built and the car painted and you think you're almost done, you're about 10% there. So be ready for that when you do your first restoration. What we're gonna look at today is, first of all, these brand new wheels and brand new tires. Got about 10 miles on them. And that one's flat. Perfect. Oh, he's got the air upper already. Look at that. Teamwork. You do the work, I'll say yes, team. The other thing, unfortunately, that we have to look at in this episode, when I drove the car over here, right as I was pulling in, I shut it off. I came in, I opened the gate. I went out, I fired it back up, and it just fired out a cloud of white smoke. This is a brand new 30 over 389 with forged pistons, Kaufman Racing aluminum heads, Kaufman Racing Northwind intake, hydraulic roller cam, roller rockers, 850 Demon carburetor. Don't really like that Demon carburetor, I might change it. And of course it's all painted and customized, turbo 400 transmission, shift kit, all that stuff. But basically we got to look in, try to see what cylinder was getting water in it, and then find out where that water was coming from. It has multi-layer steel head gaskets. I'm hoping something didn't seal right with one of the head gaskets. If it's a hole in the block, we're gonna be just in super trouble. But that's the GTO in a nutshell. Let's get to work. First thing we're gonna do is get in here and pop out some of these here spark plugs. And these aftermarket aluminum heads, you gotta have a pretty thin socket to get in there because there's not a lot of room. I pulled that one out already. And I know I said earlier I'm not a big fan of this Barry Grant carburetor. That spark plug was so black, it was definitely super rich. And I know that's just a tuning issue and it's not the carburetor's fault, but I'm just not a fan of that carburetor. Not only that, but they don't really make them anymore. I've been hearing a lot of good things about that Holley XP. If you run one of those, let me know. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, so that looks like that was our culprit. I'm hoping it's just one cylinder. I didn't get a chance to show you that first plug because I'm a lazy bum, but it was really black fouled. And if you're worried that there's water in your motor or you're burning water, you're gonna look for one of these plugs that's really clean, because that's what water's gonna do. It's gonna clean all the carbon deposits off of everything. That's why you hear people talk about the hillbilly tune-up and they get the car nice and hot and warm and then they pour water down the carburetor. That's because it'll clean all the carbon off the valves and the pistons and the plugs. What you don't want is water getting in your motor when you're not pouring it down the carburetor. So that one is our culprit. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get a borescope. I wanna look down inside that cylinder and pray to the flying spaghetti monster that there's not a crack in the cylinder wall, because that is just gonna throw a wrench in our plans, and then we're gonna have to put an LS motor in it. Can't do that. All right, let's have a look. Okay, just for comparison's sake, here's that first spark plug I pulled out. Nope, that's not it. Here's the first one I pulled out. And hopefully you can see that that's really carboned up. You know, it's running really rich, actually. I think that needs to be tuned a little bit, of course. And then that second hole, I pulled the plug out. And we're looking at this. So you can see an obvious difference. It's really clean, and that's because water is getting in that cylinder. Now we're hoping to look down in that cylinder and see what we could see, but we can't find the borescope, which means my father probably lent it to his son, me, and I never brought it back. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the other 6 spark plugs and just make sure that we only have one problem instead of 4 or 5. Going back in. Look, you guys, you got to be prepared for this when you do a project car. You're going to take it apart and put it together a bunch of times. This engine's been in and out of this car probably 7, 8 times now. On one hand, you get really good at taking it apart, putting it back together. On the other hand, sometimes you just got to take a break for a minute. I mean, you want to talk about getting frustrated. Spend $12,000 on a motor and then have to take it apart 5 times. That's another sooted up plug, so no water in that cylinder. Another thing that happened when we drove this car is that it dieseled or ran on when I shut it off when the motor was warmed up. And that just means that there's a little too much timing in it. As you can tell, this car's not completely together. That was really the first time we ever drove it a lot, or more than a half a mile. And there's just still some tuning to be done. That's no big deal. Nice and dirty. That's a good thing, though. That's what we're looking for right now. We got a few kinks to work out. If you go back and look at some of the older videos, we put this hydraulic booster on this master cylinder for the brakes. And there's a floating pin in between this booster and the master cylinder, and we had to grind that down a little bit to get a little clearance for the brake feel. And that was having a little bit of, you'd let the brake pedal off and it still felt like the brakes were applied a little bit the last time I drove it. So we're going to have to take a little more material off of that. A lot of little simple stuff, but this is the stuff it's got to be done if you want something that you can just get in it and drive it, and that's the plan with this car. We'll take it to car shows, but this is going to be my new car. I'm going to drive this like a new car. I'm going to put air conditioning in it. The plan eventually is to put fuel injection in it. We'll see how that goes. I am totally fine driving a carbureted car, but if fuel injection is simple and reasonable and possible, it might be. And there's another fouled plug. I mean, not fouled, but dirty, so that's good for us. Oh my God, it's Sasquatch! And her husband. That second one back over there. I'm hoping it's a bad head gasket, because if it's not, there's a crack in the block.
And that is not.
And that means it's pretty much.
Well, JB will.
The engine's got to come out. It's got to go back to the machine shop. It might have to be thrown away.
It's a shame because it's the original engine for the car.
That plug looks like it had water in it too.
No, that's dirty.
That's gas. Carbon. It's definitely running super rich.
Yeah, but is it watered down gas?
No.
Now it is.
Because you licked it.
Yeah, I licked it.
Sometimes you just gotta lick things, man. Hi, pregnant ladies.
Hi.
Should I get in there?
All the pregnant ladies. I got all the pregnant ladies over here.
All the person
I
there?
think that's the first time I ever seen you like that.
What? Beautiful?
Oh, you lose like some weight, now you're gonna give fat people a shit show? That's messed up.
Well, that's what you
That's the reason why you lose weight, so
Yeah,
you
so you
talk
can make
shit
fun
to
of
fat
fat
people.
I'm gonna so do that.
I tell you what. It sure feels 170.
215 right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In your hand.
Which leg?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
295.
What ham?
I'm a,
Mm. Mm. Well, that's 7 cylinders dirty, 1 cylinder clean. You ever feel like somebody's watching you? It's the weirdest feeling ever. It's not the best news, but under the circumstances, it's good news. It could be worse. We're going to hold on the engine right now because I don't have a borescope to look inside that cylinder. If it's the heads, these are brand new Kaufman racing heads. They're going back. If it's the block, we just got to figure out what we're going to do. And hopefully it's just that multi-layer steel head gasket. They are reusable, so I'm hoping if it is the head gasket, we can paint that sucker with copper head gasket spray and glue it back together and be good to go.
Being the original engine is a shame.
It is the original block. Now, I do know that this block had a couple of cracks in it, and my machinist fixed all that. I'm hoping something just wasn't missed or weak or... Everybody's laughing and looking around. I don't know if it's at me or...
You just said I knew no.
I
I'm
do.
laughing at that, but then I noticed there's peaches on the tree.
I said I do know.
No, you said I knew no.
Well,
do know.
Then I got
well, now I do know
sidetracked
that
by
I
my
knew
friend.
no.
I'm pregnant.
Anyway, that's going to be it for working on the motor without the borescope. The biscuit.
Battle!
These are original 1966 antennas.
I wonder if this was
I didn't
on
know I
that
had 2
laser.
of them. Antenna fight.
How are we missing?
I don't know. Let's just touch the tips. Oh yeah, that's it. I want to check one more thing before I give up all day today, every day, whatever I'm saying. I'm just going to see if there's any water in the oil. And it would appear to be over full.
So you pulled a mat.
And let me clean that off, because yeah, here's a tech tip for you. When your motor's full of oil, don't put 8 more quarts in it.
I thought it was going into a special place.
That's your boob.
Really drippy.
Did you just taste it?
That 100% has water in the oil.
That's not good.
So that still could be a blown head gasket, and the water's just been running down through the cylinder and getting past the rings. Or that could mean there's a hole in the block somewhere. It's not definitive, but you know, we already knew water was getting in there. So it's not good. All right. So after thinking about it for a little bit, I've decided that no matter what I do, really, I need to take that head off. Even if it is a crack in the block, I'll be able to see everything better. And, you know, let's just do it. Let's just get in there and get it done. So I'm going to start taking things apart, and we'll get that head out of there. The only problem I foresee taking that off is it's got head studs. So we're not going to be able to pull the head all the way up off the studs with that box there. But that's okay. We'll just take the studs out, and we should be able to get it off. Let's do that now. Well, we had to run down to the Hobo Freight. These ARP head studs have a 12-point nut on them, and I needed this 9/16 12-point for a 1/2-inch drive. So I have them at home, but this is not my shop. This is my pop's shop. And my shop is it's in the process of a hostile takeover by my wife. So I'm working here. We got the wrench. I got everything unbolted. I think I'll pull those push rods out. I got the exhaust unbolted from the cast iron header underneath, and I'm hoping I could take the header and the head all off at the same time. That'll just save me so much of a headache. So let's get that head untorqued and we'll see if we can get it off there. Well, I have all of the head studs out except for one. I can't quite pull it all the way out, but I've got it out and propped up. I'm hoping I can work it around as I come out. Like I said, the exhaust tubing is disconnected from the collector flange down there, or I don't know what you call it. And this head should be ready to come off. I'm going to try to take it off with the cast iron manifold still on it. And it's probably going to be heavy. So here we go. Attempt number uno. Well, I'm definitely getting hung up on those studs and that exhaust down there. Oh man, it worked. Let's try to get everything cleaned up. We'll move that piston down to the bottom, get a good flashlight, and inspect that hole really good. As I was taking it apart, I was also wondering, are these head bolt holes windowed into the water? I didn't put any thread sealer on them, so I really need to check that. I'm looking at this right here. That water is pretty close to the bowl right there, and it looks like it might have came through. Even there, it looks like there's a chance it might have come through. So actually, that one right there looks like, yeah, that came through. So the head gasket that I took off of this car is this fancy racing super multi-layered steel gasket. Now here's the thing with these. You read a lot online about multi-layer steel and what you can and can't do with them. I'm just going to set the record straight. Yes, you can reuse these. You just have to clean them very well, and then I always like to put some of that head gasket copper spray in a can just to make sure they seal good. Absolutely 100% reusable. Never had trouble with it. That comes from a lot of experience. Now, here's the qualifier. if you're changing this or removing this because it went through somewhere, or like in my case, I got water in a cylinder, and you want to do this with it. Any point in time that head gasket fails, don't take that chance. Well, this engine is putting out quite a bit of horsepower, but it's not by any means a drag racing engine. I want to be able to drive this every day. The multi-layer steel head gaskets at the time, I just wanted the best of everything. But I'm going old school, back to this composite gasket. I'm hoping that because of this composite material and its sealing properties, and it transfers to the surfaces and it actually creates a seal, that's going to help me a lot with just making sure all these water jackets are sealed up and not having this problem anymore. Now, having a multi-layer steel head gasket on one side of the engine and this on the other side of the engine is in no way going to trigger my OCD. A lot. But you know what? I'm not taking that other head off. It's sealed good. So this is what's happening. And now, if the other side does fail, I already got an extra head gasket. So, now did you know that when you buy a Pontiac head gaskets from the Opart stores, it says right here on the box that this is also for the 61 to 63 Pontiac 4-cylinder engine? Right here somewhere it says that. Isn't that cool? That means Pontiac made their 4-cylinder almost literally out of half of one of their V8s. Pretty nifty, huh? Alright, got the always fun part done, and that is cleaning and prepping the surfaces. All I got to say about that is it sucks. Take your time. Use lots of brake cleaner, wax and grease remover, degreaser, whatever you got to do. Scrape everything good. Just make sure it's really clean. Even if it takes hours to do, I know. Trust me, I know. I just want to put the head back on. But we also don't want to take the head back off again after we put it on. So, take your time, clean everything good. Composite gaskets like this, do not put copper head gasket spray on them. I'm sure you all already know that, and I'm sure a lot of you have still done it. Don't do it. Okay, we're getting ready to drop this head gasket on, and these are omnidirectional. There's no writing on them. What you want to do is look for top or front. Some gaskets are specific on which side they can go. What I like to do is just check every hole, set that gasket on its pins, and then make sure that every single hole is covered and you're not blocking anything or nothing like that. These two water jackets down here, I'm thinking this is the one that was giving me trouble, and it's so close to the cylinder that even the gasket is kind of overlapping it, and it's almost into the fire ring of the gasket. That's probably just poor design or just the way they were made. So the other thing that you want to be really careful of, especially like this motor that I've had bored, is you want to make sure that your gasket fire ring doesn't encroach on your cylinder hole. You want to, there's a little bit of a gap there, that's fine. Even right up against it, if it's really close, that could be an issue, because when you squeeze that gasket down, it could push it out, and then that could cause some problems with your piston coming up and hitting it. This gasket looks really good. Now it's just a matter of wrestling everything back in with the exhaust manifold on it. And then the other problem I had is on the back here, I had 2 push rods and 1 head stud that wouldn't come out because they hit this box. That means when I put it back in, I have to put those in the head, hold them in place somehow as I fish the exhaust in there and then set the head on. So this one's going to be fun. I think we can do it though. I'm confident.
And 7 is what they're measuring.
these pins?
Yes.
I just know that she's crushing everything that I find important in my body.
Come on.
And then that,
There.
And then about 5 days ago, and I put it out yesterday, the day before, and it was like you walked in and there was like a black
Is that it?
ball.
I think that's all. Cool. We're going to 110 pounds, biatches. And if I torque heads every day, I get a good workout. All right, we got that head back on. We got those head studs torqued down to 110 foot-pounds. Even if your torque sequence doesn't tell you to, always tighten them up with like 25 pounds and then 50 pounds and then go up to your full torque sequence. I feel like it helps keep everything a little bit flatter and neater. So now all we got to do is get under there, bolt the exhaust on, the intake on, all of that stuff. You guys saw me take it off. It'll just be that in reverse. And then hopefully we'll be doing burnouts and this thing will not be smoking water smoke. Cross your fingers. All right, we got the exhaust bolted back on. Now we're going to go through and we're going to set the preload on all these lifters. This is a hydraulic roller cam, so it's preload, not valve lash. The way I like to do it is the simplest way. I use the EOIC method. That's exhaust opening, intake closing. And you can look here, you can see your intake port. It'll run right to the valve. Here's this exhaust port. That means this is the exhaust valve. So if I want to set this exhaust valve, I need this intake valve to be just starting to close, which means it will be on its full stroke and going, and the spring coming back up. What we'll do is just turn the motor over until that intake valve starts to close. Then we can set the preload on the exhaust. Then we'll turn it until the exhaust just starts to open, and we can set the preload on the intake. That's the simplest way I found to do it. You just go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you're done. Okay, give it a little bump.
First of
Whoa.
all, there's literally like 2 roads that you can go on to get like in and out of that spot where they are. Like that's it. And they both lead to 80 or yeah. And but there's fucking people on there, like on the groups that like are supposed to be like update groups. Talking about like murdering other
A little bit.
What if a bunch
Little
of people
bit.
got together and murdered
Whoa.
her and like Victor and like now they're all covering it up and posting this shit on Facebook. What is wrong with you people? Doing polls on who do you think she did murder and I think she's in the water. was lying to April with that. If he would have backed out hard enough.
You got smoke leaking around your exhaust over there.
That's gonna be all
Everything burning off.
that'll last.
Mildly toxic. Custom interior.
These are good ones.
I don't see no more much moisture.
Yeah.
I don't see any now.
She sounds good.
That's a result.
Well, that's a result. You can see us when we revved it. There was a little bit of blue smoke coming out. I'm not concerned about that. This thing does not burn oil at all. That's just contamination getting in the exhaust when we're working on everything, and it'll burn all that stuff off. But no cloud of white smoke. So there's no more water getting in that cylinder. We'll do some checks. We'll run it through a couple of cycles and make sure, but I'm confident we got it fixed. Good day. Now we got to get to work on the convertible top, because later this month we're going to have that put on it, and we're almost done. I think it's only been 11 years in the making. Good gravy. All right. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you didn't learn anything. Tell your friends, grandmas, dogs, groomers, brother. Subscribe. Click the bell. Thanks for watching.